That day in Dongcam village there was a boat race between two big rivals, Gon and Thep. Both teams rowed hard on the river, paddling with all their strength. It looked like there would be a winner, but who would have guessed the two boats would crash into each other and flip right over. Since they couldn't fight in the water, Gon and Thep went ashore to fight with their fists. The two young men wouldn't give in to each other and kept hitting. And if Bua hadn't run out to stop them, Gon would have sent Thep straight to the dentist. Everyone thought Gon was the one who started trouble because Thep is gentle and nice and never gets physical. And even though Ruang stood up to testify that Thep punched Gon first, people still didn't believe it. So they took both of them to the station for questioning in a closed room. Thep's father is the village chief, so Thep got released first, while Gon had to stay for one more day. Bua showed she cared by bringing medicine to apply to Thep's wounds. This couple is pretty close, basically more than friends but not quite lovers, just missing a confession. By the afternoon, Gon's dad came to bail him out, and as soon as he saw the sunlight, Gon got kicked twice by his dad for causing trouble. Seeing Gon still making a smug face, he pulled Gon's ear and dragged him home to vent his anger. The next day, Bua went to visit Thep, and on her way back her tire went flat. She was already mad not knowing why. And then Gon came over to annoy her. It turned out that this guy was the one who poked a hole in Bua's tire, so he would have an excuse to ride her home. Thep really wanted to take Bua home too, but his stepmother Tup Tim called him to eat dinner. This stepmother is his dad's sugar baby who also wants to hook up with the son but hasn't had the chance. Bua sat on the back of Gon's bike with a super tense face, and when they got to the field outside her house, she told Gon to stop. But the guy didn't listen and insisted on taking her right to the door. The result was that Bua's dad fired a few shots at him, and he had to grab his bike and run for his life. Bua's dad doesn't like Gon, so whenever he sees him coming around, he pulls out his gun to chase him away. Bua kept saying she would never like Gon and that he just kept pestering her to let him take her home. But her dad still didn't feel at ease. Gon got home and saw his dad had finished cooking. His dad told him there is a civil service exam coming up and he needs to study hard for it, so he doesn't waste his 3 years of college. But this guy didn't like that, so he just focused on eating as fast as he could, and in a flash the whole tray of food was clean. After eating, Gon went straight to his room so he wouldn't hear his dad nagging anymore. And he took out the bamboo propeller he used to play with Bua when they were kids and sat there looking at it. That night Mr. Bon mentioned going to see village chief Chat to discuss the wedding of Bua and Thep. Knowing his daughter also had feelings for Thep, as soon as it was morning, he went over to the groom's house immediately. The village chief and his wife couldn't stop smiling when they heard this, and they excitedly picked a good date to come over and propose the marriage right away. Tup Tim was hiding in the corner and got very angry when she heard it, so she planned to go gossip and badmouth Bua for chasing after a man to the other gossip ladies, but unexpectedly, the villagers supported the couple, and everyone was excited to attend the feast. Tup Tim tried to badmouth Bua but no one believed her, and she even got a bucket of dirty water thrown on her by Pin and Ruang, leaving her soaking wet. Ruang confirmed the rumor about the wedding of the century with Pin, and then ran back to tell Gon right away. After hearing this, Gon's jaw dropped to the floor, and while he felt deeply sad inside, he had to try to act like he was fine and said that Bua and Thep were a good match. Ruang knew perfectly well that Gon was crazy about Bua, since he even named all his pets Bua. In the past, there was even drama about him making a flower wreath for Bua that she wouldn't accept, as she only accepted the bunch of water lilies that Thep gave her. Another time when they were releasing flower lanterns, Gon begged and begged until Bua agreed to go with him, but Thep still snatched her away. Thep just called out once, and Bua abandoned Gon to run over to him and released the lantern with him instead. That day, Gon planned to confess his love to Bua but didn't get the chance. And to be fair, Gon's and Bua's families are not on the same social level and hate each other like cats and dogs, so it would be hard for them to get married. Gon was so sad that he went to the river to swim and relieve his sorrow, but right then a younger girl named Soy, who is desperately in love with Gon, ran over to rub salt in his wounds. Soy excitedly told him that today Thep and Bua came to meet her father, the district chief, to have him officiate the wedding. Gon was already depressed enough, and Soy stood there flirting continuously, so Gon didn't even have any private space to feel sad. Afraid that someone might see them and start some drama, Gon jumped right back into the river to catch more shrimp. Soy went home angrily. It turns out there is a reason why this girl is into Gon. Soy and her father know that Gon has a very bright future, because a road is going to be built through Gon's family land soon. If they can get that piece of land from Gon, they will only get richer and richer, so the district chief doesn't object to Soy flirting with Gon. In the evening, Gon caught a basket of shrimp, and on his way back he met Thep and Bua walking together. The two of them were being super lovey-dovey, which made Gon very uncomfortable. The guy gave Bua the basket of shrimp as a wedding gift, but Bua just gave him a few cold words in return, which was pretty heartbreaking to hear. That night, Gon went out drinking to drown his sorrows and got completely wasted. As he was getting up to leave, he bumped into a gangster named Dang. He apologized, but the guy still gave him a hard time and forced Gon to kneel down. The whole group rushed in to jump Gon. Gon wanted to let it go, but they kept pushing him. So he showed the whole group what a party is. Just because the tiger didn't roar, they thought he was Hello Kitty. A moment later, the police arrived, and the group ran away so fast they lost their sandals. As bad luck would have it, Gon ran into a dead end. But the situation couldn't stop this young man. Gon dodged a few moves and was able to escape. The police officers were still hot on his heels. So Gon ran for a while until he reached the front of Bua's house. Being desperate, he took a risk and climbed a tree. Sneaking into Bua's room through the window, Bua heard a noise and woke up. And the young man immediately lunged over to cover her mouth and almost lost his first kiss. The police officers chased him to the spot and called the rich man out to ask if he saw Gon, then left. At this time inside the room, Bua saw that Gon's arms and legs were scratched up and felt sorry for him, so she got medicine to apply on him. The rich man heard noise in Bua's room and planned to knock to check, but a servant ran over to report that a male servant was causing trouble, so he ran off to handle it. After applying the medicine, Gon was climbing out the window to go home when he met a cobra right on the tree. Bua saw that and pulled him back into the room, but she accidentally pulled too hard, making both of them fall and hit their heads, knocking them unconscious in a position that caused a bit of a misunderstanding. By morning, the whole family prepared to eat breakfast and didn't see Bua come out, so they sent the youngest daughter Molly in to call her. And she was shocked to see Gon and Bua lying one on top of the other. The rich man didn't give Gon a chance to explain. He took out his gun and pointed it right at Gon. Afraid he would be sent to the afterlife, Gon just stood hiding behind Bua's back, explaining nonstop that nothing happened last night, but the rich man still refused to put the gun down. Both sides were very tense when Gon's dad came to join the fun, kicking Gon flat a few times. Gon told the two fathers he would take responsibility for Bua and marry her to save her face, but she refused. Bua would only marry Thep. She would rather be bitten by a snake than marry Gon. The rumor that Gon and Bua lived together spread all over the market, and Tup Tim didn't miss the chance to bring her mouth to gossip along, intentionally talking loud enough for Thep to hear. Thep didn't believe he was being cheated on, so he ran to find Bua to get to the bottom of it. Bua explained that nothing happened between her and Gon, and that in her heart there was only Thep, but Thep didn't seem to believe it, making Bua very disappointed, and she left heartbroken. That night, Gon's sister named Ku came home from studying far away. Hearing the news that her brother was about to get married and had even snatched Thep's girl, she laughed gloatingly. While only Uncle Kem was tired of his brain because of his troublemaking son, Thep's place, he was also extremely sad. He felt he didn't trust Bua and couldn't accept this rumor. On Bua's side, it wasn't any fun either. She was already heartbroken, and when she went to the market, she was gossiped about by busybodies saying she was two-timing, and then she met Soy, who mocked her for marrying one person but sleeping with another. Her patience had a limit. Bua was so mad she rushed over and slapped Soy a crisp one. Soy didn't give in and lunged to grab Bua's hair, and a moment later Pin and Molly joined the fun to help their sister. The result was that all three sisters were scolded by their dad for fighting with the wrong person. Of all people, they went to jump the district chief's daughter. The rich man told all three girls to stay home and forbade them from going out again, or else they would cause trouble and tire him out. As for Thep, after a night of thinking, he still decided to marry Bua, but his father didn't agree because the rumors had spread too far, and he was afraid it would affect his reputation as village chief. In another development, Soy, after fighting with Bua, ran to find Gon, wanting to hook up with Gon right then and there to relieve her anger. Gon didn't know what to do when Cook came out to rescue him, throwing a whole bucket of water into Soy's face, making her very angry, so she went home holding her grudge. That afternoon, Village Chief Chat went to see the wealthy man Bond to postpone the wedding, but he didn't dare cancel it completely because he was afraid of affecting their friendship. So he said to wait for the rumors to settle down and then discuss it further. Bua heard this from upstairs, feeling ashamed and not wanting to marry Gon. She packed her things and ran away from home, figuring since she was rumored to be a bad girl, she might as well be bad. Halfway there she met Gon. He wanted to stop Bua, but she ran faster than a horse, and he chased for a long time before catching up. Talking gently didn't work, so Gon had to provoke Bua so she would punch him to vent her anger, and only then did he advise her to go back. The two of them walked together to the gate when they saw Thep's family and Bua's family standing there talking rather loudly to each other. Bua ran in to stop the two fathers, and seeing her with Gon, Thep spoke a bit harshly, saying that he endured the humiliation to still ask to marry her. Yet she was by Gon's side. Hearing that, Bua knew Thep didn't trust her, and adding the fact that the village chief also didn't agree to the wedding, she decided she would marry Gon. That afternoon, Bua was so mad she just blurted those words out, but by the evening when she calmed down, she was crying her eyes out because she didn't want to take Gon as her husband. Having gotten himself a wife, Gon excitedly ran home to brag to his dad, making Uncle Kem unable to believe his own ears. The next day, Uncle Kem went over to the rich man's house to discuss the wedding, but it wasn't very pleasant. The two fathers were talking, but it was more like enemies arguing. The rich man Bon wanted Gon to move in with them as a live-in son-in-law, but naturally, Uncle Kem didn't agree because he was afraid the villagers would rumor that his son is a gold digger. So the two fathers jumped right back into arguing like cats and dogs. Gon agreed to become a live-in son-in-law, just as long as people stopped spreading bad rumors about Bua. Since his son agreed, Uncle Kem was speechless. The wedding took place very quickly. Gon was grinning like he'd struck gold, while Bua was so fed up she didn't even want to talk. During the ceremony, Bua sat there sobbing. Only the district chief gave a proper and decent blessing, while Bua's parents didn't even bother to look at their son-in-law's face. A bit later, Thep's family arrived at the wedding, and as soon as he saw them, Gon pretended to care for Bua just to mess with Thep and make him angry. Thep was boiling with rage, but he swallowed his anger to go give his blessings to Bua, wishing her safety and hoping she would escape this bad karma soon. Although the rich man Bon and the village chief were still a bit mad, they didn't want to stop being friends, so they made up. If they couldn't be in-laws, being close friends was still okay. As for Soy, she still missed her chance with Gon, so she was crying a river, crying enough to flood the whole wedding. After the ceremony, Bua suddenly started treating Gon nicely, which surprised everyone and left the parents totally stunned. It turned out she was doing it on purpose to annoy Soy and Thep. Then his friend Ruang started a chant for a cheek kiss, which made Gon very happy, so he took action immediately and planted a big kiss right on Bua's cheek. For the second one, Bua was surprised and turned around so their lips actually touched. Seeing the bride and groom like that, Thep got even angrier, but his parents advised him to let it go. Since things had already turned out this way, he should accept it and move on. That guy Dang, the rich man's favorite henchman, didn't want to work under Gon in the future, so he challenged him to see who could hold their liquor better. With Bua's permission, Gon went all out and drank until he was totally wasted, almost forgetting the way back to his room. Seeing that, Thep came up with a bad plan. While Gon went outside to puke, he knocked Gon out, stole his groom's outfit to wear, and ran off to find the bride to get revenge on Gon. As luck would have it, he ran into Soy, who also wanted to steal the groom. She thought Thep was Gon, so she dragged him into the bushes and kissed him like crazy. They were having fun when Tup-Tim and Ka caught them, and Soy was shocked out of her mind when she saw that the person she just kissed was Thep. Tup-Tim gently reminded Thep that he better prepare himself to explain to his parents why he was wearing the groom's outfit, and not to think she didn't know what he was planning to do. Just as Tup-Tim left, the district chief arrived. He knew exactly what Soy's intentions were, and seeing his daughter with messy hair made him purple with rage as he dragged Soy home. Ka didn't forget to scold Thep either. She said she wouldn't talk about what happened today on the condition that from now on, Thep stops hanging around Bua. On the other side, luckily for Gon, Ruang found him stark naked. Worried, Gon rushed back to find Bua, thinking that Thep had already taken her away to run off. Gon wanted to go find Thep to settle things, but the parents stopped him because it was time for the wedding night. Going anywhere else would just make a scene and cause more gossip. Being a bride and groom for the first time, and hating each other on top of that, made them both a bit awkward. Bua wouldn't let Gon sleep in the same bed and kicked him out, but later she called him back into the room because there was no one else to help her undo the buttons on her back so she could change. Afraid that Gon might try something, Bua tied him up just to be safe, and only then did she feel at ease enough to go to sleep. Bua slept soundly until morning, while Gon had to sit there all night without sleeping a wink. In the morning, after getting untied, Gon planned to tease Bua a little to act like a newlywed couple, but he immediately faced a reckless girl holding a gun. However, the young man still managed to sneak a kiss on Bua's cheek. On his first day as a live-in son-in-law, sitting down for a meal was a bit awkward. Gon asked the rich man if he should switch to calling him father-in-law, but the rich man wouldn't let him call him that. After eating, Gon had to go down to the rice mill to help out. He thought he'd get a job pointing fingers, but it turned out he got stuck doing manual labor carrying bags. That guy Dang thought he could take advantage of the situation to bully the newbie. But who would have guessed Gon wasn't scared at all and even talked trash back to him. Gon called a few servants over to help him, and Dang immediately forbade anyone from helping, but the servants were still more afraid of the rich man's son-in-law. So they disobeyed Dang and ran over to give Gon a hand. When it was time to calculate wages, that guy Dang skimmed money off the older workers' pay, saying they didn't work much so they wouldn't get the full salary as agreed. Gon was furious on their behalf, so he went to reason with him. But seeing that talking wouldn't work, Gon rushed in and beat Dang to a pulp. People hadn't stepped in to stop it, it would have been a huge mess. Both of them were called up to see the rich man. Gon explained that Dang was skimming off the top and stealing the workers' wages, but the rich man didn't believe it and even scolded Gon for causing trouble at the rice mill. Gon felt sorry for the older man who was bullied, so he gave him all his money to buy food to bring home to his wife and kids. On the way home, Gon bumped into Bua going to the market. Afraid of being scolded, the guy hurriedly tried to bail, but Bua still caught up to him. Knowing Gon had been kicked out of the rice mill by her dad, Bua scolded him again because she thought it was because Gon was lazy and had intentionally picked a fight with Dang to get fired so he wouldn't have to work anymore. Gon wasn't angry at all. He even teased Bua back and flirted with her so much that Bua got too shy and went straight home. Gon tailed her home and helped Bua in the kitchen. Whatever Bua planned to do, Gon snatched the job to help her, and when Bua wanted to fry fish, Gon hurriedly did it for her, calling her wifey with every other word. In another development, Soy knew Thep hadn't let go of Bua yet, so she ran to meet him and proposed a partnership to separate Bua from Gon and break up their marriage. At first Thep refused and acted noble, but Soy clung to him like a leech, following him around until she forced him to cooperate. That night, the rich man sat eating dinner and praised the fried fish for being delicious, but when he found out Gon fried it, he choked on his rice and spat it all out. The rich man told Gon to go back to work at the rice mill, and strictly warned him not to cause trouble with Dang anymore. Everyone at the mill knows Gon is his son-in-law, so if he keeps causing trouble without getting punished, others might get jealous. In the afternoon, Gon said he didn't want to work at the rice mill, but after being called lazy by Bua, the guy was determined to change and work hard to prove her wrong. Besides, if he wanted a long life with Bua, he had to earn the rich man's trust and stop annoying him. Another beautiful day arrived. Ku had just rented a space to open a tailor shop at the market, and on opening day, she lit firecrackers to celebrate loudly. Gon brought Bua over to be the first customer, but Soy also excitedly ran over demanding to be the first one, and ordered 3 outfits just to show off. Bua didn't want to lose so she ordered 5 outfits. As the sister-in-law, she had to be the first customer, and she even intentionally held Gon's arm to make Soy cough up blood from anger. Everyone thought it would stop there, but unexpectedly Soy raised it to 12 outfits. Bua pulled a twist and stopped competing, gently helping Ku get a huge order while making Soy spend all her money. Soy ran home to ask for more money, and the district chief, knowing Ku opened a tailor shop, immediately forced his daughter to go make friends with Ku to convince her family to sell their land. Back at Ku's place, Gon was planning to start a farming business to increase income, and also help the villagers have a chance to earn money. But first Gon needed capital, so the young man focused hard on working at the rice mill to save money. Occasionally when he got paid, he bought some food and drinks to enjoy with the workers, so he was very popular with them, and seeing that, the rich man also became less annoyed with Gon. Carrying bags all day made his whole body ache, yet he still had to sleep on the floor. So Gon ran back to the room whining and demanding Bua to give him a massage. They were having fun when a servant ran over to report that the rice warehouse was on fire, and everyone was working together to put it out. Gon and the rich man rushed over to check the situation, and Gon and Ruang ran at full capacity to help put out the fire. The rich man told Dang to go check how much the damage was, and Gon asked to go along because he suspected there was something shady about the cause of the fire, especially concerning Dang. It turned out there really was something shady. This guy Dang frequently stole bags of rice from the warehouse to sell, and this time he took too much, so he burned down the warehouse to cover his tracks and hide his bad deeds from everyone. After dealing with the rice mill, the rich man went home for lunch, but Gon was nowhere to be seen. A moment later, Thep brought some fish over as a gift and was invited to stay and eat with the family. After dinner, Bua walked Thep to the door. He wanted to get back together with Bua, so he badmouthed Gon right in front of her. Bua didn't want to hear it. Plus she was still angry at Thep, so she went straight back into the house. As for Gon, he was at Ruang's place. He suspected that Guy Dang set the rice mill on fire, but Ruang thought Gon just had a grudge because he hated him, and added that without evidence no one would believe it. The rich man values Dang very highly, so he would surely scold Gon for blaming a good person. Gon sat drinking and eating grilled fish with Ruang until late before going home, and he was even carrying a bottle of alcohol under each arm, making Bua extremely annoyed. She snatched the bottle and took a swig, but unfortunately her tolerance is a bit weak, so she passed out on the spot after the very first sip. Gon was kind enough to help her lie down properly, but just as he was about to cover her with a blanket, Bua gave him a kick that sent him falling flat on his face. The next morning while eating, Bua and Gon kept talking vaguely about the kick, making the parents think the two of them went at it too hard, causing sore limbs. After finishing the meal, Gon went back to the rice mill to help clean up and repair the warehouse. Today Bua and Pin also brought food to the mill for the workers. Gon ran out and saw her, immediately acting needy and wanting her to scoop him a cup of water, but she refused. Suddenly Soy came running from somewhere to ask about Gon and even took a towel to wipe his sweat. Bua glared at her and snatched the towel, saying this was her job and she didn't need her to meddle, and Gon really knew how to enjoy the special treatment. While they were pretending to be super romantic, Thep and the district chief arrived. The district chief asked Thep to take Soy home for him, while he went in to find the rich man to discuss business. After taking Soy home, Thep went to Ku's place. Hearing that Ku planned to open a beauty shop, he wanted to invest capital. To say thanks, Ku bought Thep a bag of the potato cakes he likes to eat, which made Thep remember how romantic Bua and Gon were with each other earlier. Thep brought the bag of cakes home, feeling happy because it had been a long time since someone cared about his interests. Tup Tim saw Thep come home and immediately plotted to hook up with Thep, intentionally falling and calling Thep to run in and help. Thep knew perfectly well he was being lured, so he scolded Tup Tim, saying that since she is already his father's second wife, she shouldn't try to seduce him anymore, as he has no interest. Every word he spoke made Tup Tim feel both embarrassed and angry. The next day, the rich man invited the village chief out to chat. He was suspecting that someone burned down the rice warehouse, either Gon or Dang. Because trouble happened right after Gon arrived, it didn't seem like a coincidence, but Gon was at home that whole day. As for Dang, he was the first one at the rice mill when it caught fire, which made the rich man suspicious, but this guy Dang has worked for him for many years, so he couldn't just blame him either. The village chief told the rich man to let him investigate to see who the real culprit is. On the other side, Bua and Pin brought food to the rice mill for her father, and halfway there they met Thep and exchanged a few polite words. Looking at them, you could see they both still had some feelings for each other. Bua brought the food to the rice mill, but Gon wasn't there, and suddenly feeling annoyed, she took the lunchbox to go look for him. It turned out this young man was at Ruong's place researching his tree planting startup. Gon didn't want anyone to know he was educated, so he made Ruong hide it, fearing there would be trouble. Bua found Gon out in the field and even heard Gon calling the buffalo by her name, so she scolded him severely, asking if he hated her so much that he named a buffalo after her. Bua thought Gon had hated her since childhood because there was a time he brought buffalo dung over, saying that applying it to her face would help whiten her skin. It turned out that Gon saw Ka doing that, so he brought it for Bua to apply on herself. As a result, Bua had an allergic reaction for a whole month before recovering. Bua asked Gon why he skipped work to come out here, so he immediately led her home to show her his secret garden. Gon has quite a green thumb when it comes to farming. Whatever he plants grows well, so there were many types of lush green trees around the house. After getting bored playing in the garden, Gon took Bua out to the field to ride a buffalo and enjoy the scenery, then herd ducks home. Having fun, the two of them dragged each other into the rice paddy to play in the mud, making both of them soaking wet and dirty as buffaloes. When they returned home to wash up, they accidentally met Thep, who was surveying the land. Thep asked Gon if anyone had asked to buy this piece of land of his yet, because a main road was about to be built through here. So some investors from other regions were starting to come and buy up land. Gon was stunned upon hearing this and ran back to find his father to ask about it. It was precisely because of this that Uncle Kem wanted Gon to take the exam to become a civil servant, as a civil servant would have more say in advising the villagers not to sell their land. But whenever this topic was mentioned, Gon would dodge it. He told his father not to be impatient and to just let him do what he wanted. Uncle Kem talked a lot, but Gon wouldn't listen. So he stopped talking and just warned Gon not to join the rich man in smuggling rice. Uncle Kem had heard rumors lately that someone was selling rice on the black market, and since the rich man's rice mill was burned down at the same time, he thought this smuggler was the rich man. However, Gon suspected that guy Dang more. Just as Gon thought, that guy Dang secretly stole rice from the rich man's house to sell on the black market, and whatever money he got, he brought back to give to the district chief. After each job, he would get a small cut. The next day, Uncle Kem went to the rice mill and saw his son having to carry bags, so he immediately had a heated argument with the rich man. Gon was afraid his dad would mention his schooling, so he pulled him outside and told him not to run his mouth like that, as Gon didn't want people to know his dad had sent him to study agriculture. Uncle Kem scolded Gon, saying that he is clearly as educated as Thep but is here doing hard labor instead of using the knowledge he learned to get rich. Gon explained that he volunteered to work not to curry favor with the rich man, but because he wanted to investigate whether Dang was the one who burned down the rice warehouse. Uncle Kem set a condition that if Gon couldn't find anything within 1 month, he would have to obediently take the civil service exam. Otherwise he would go inside and make a big fuss about this. The deal was done, so Gon went back to work, while Uncle Kem swallowed his pride to apologize to the rich man, saying he was a bit hot-headed earlier. He had come to ask about buying seedlings, so the two fathers went inside to talk. There was a bit of an incident at the warehouse. Wooden planks fell from above right where Bua was standing, and Gon rushed over fast as lightning to shield her with his body. Just as he managed to ask if Bua was okay, Gon passed out cold. His head was bleeding profusely, and everyone rushed him to the hospital. Bua stood outside, both scared and worried, with tears welling up in her eyes. Ku heard the news that her brother was in the hospital and ran over too. She ran into Thep outside and advised him that it would be better if he didn't go inside. But Thep ignored her and ran off to find Bua to see if she was hurt. Bua brushed his hand away and said she was fine. A moment later, the doctor finished the exam and came out to speak to the family. Bua followed immediately, and luckily Gon was out of danger and just needed to stay for observation for 1 night, then he could go home tomorrow. Ku was annoyed seeing Thep hovering around her sister-in-law, so she told him to stay away from Bua. She said his actions would cause the gossips to spread bad rumors about Bua, so he should leave while he still could. Ku was about to leave when Thep hugged her from behind, and the result was that he got slapped across the face by Ku, leaving a red mark, and was chased away. It turned out Thep did that to get revenge on Gon. He planned to make Ku suffer over him. Ku went back to the hospital room to take her dad home so Bua could stay and watch over her brother. Otherwise, if her dad stayed, he would keep arguing with the rich man and cause a scene in the whole hospital. Gon was unconscious all day without waking up, which made Bua worried, and she sat by his hospital bed without leaving. By morning, Gon woke up and saw Bua holding his hand while asleep, and he felt crazy happy inside. Being worried about by her made Gon like it even more. Over at Soy's place, as soon as she found out Gon was in the hospital, she threw a tantrum demanding her father let her visit. She whined until the district chief finally agreed. But unexpectedly, when she arrived, the nurse said Gon had already been discharged and went home. It turned out Gon didn't want to eat and sleep at the hospital anymore. He preferred going home to act like a baby with Bua. Bua went into the kitchen to cook, and the young man insisted on tagging along. Wherever Bua went, Gon stuck to her, flirting with her and annoying her at the same time. Her mother came out and asked Bua to go to the market to collect some debts for her, and Gon insisted on going along to be her driver. Although her mother's face was tense, as soon as Bua and Gon left, she got excited when she heard Molly say that she saw the couple being super affectionate with each other earlier. When Bua and Gon got to the market, they ran into Thep, who came over to ask Gon a few questions. Bua was afraid of being gossiped about again, so she told Gon to leave first. Thep was bitter and angry, so he ran over to Ku to focus on speeding up his flirting game with her. He bought Ku a strawberry soda, saying he only bought it because he cared about his business partner. Tup Tim noticed that Thep had been flirting with Ku lately, so she asked him if he was doing it to get revenge on Gon. Thep denied it immediately, pretending to be a good person and not that kind of shameless guy. The next day, the village chief heard Tup Tim say that Thep invested money in Ku's shop, so he scolded him severely and forced Thep to withdraw the money, or else he would cut his name out of the family registry. Back to Gon. He was feeling better today, so he followed the rich man to the rice mill. Dang saw him arrive and tried to make him carry rice, but the rich man wouldn't let Gon do heavy work and told Gon to follow him inside to check the books, even arranging a private desk for him. Gon looked over the books and saw that this guy Dang worked very meticulously, not leaving any loopholes. Getting desperate, Gon decided to take a risk and asked Ruang to go follow him, and they found out that Dang had arranged for his minions to transport rice to sell on the black market tonight. The two young men overheard that and ran back to tattle to the rich man, but no matter what they said, the rich man wouldn't believe it because Dang had worked for him for a long time. Luckily Bua spoke up to help, so the rich man finally agreed to trust Gon this one time. At midnight, Gon went all out and went to the warehouse to catch Dang stealing rice red-handed. But Dang's minions were numerous, and Gon and Ruang alone couldn't take them. Gon chased after Dang while Ruang stayed behind to deal with the aggressive mob. Both sides rushed in to fight with enthusiasm. Dang was cornered, so he grabbed a big wooden plank and whacked Gon without missing a beat, causing Gon's old wound to burst open and bleed. Just when he thought he would turn into a dry skeleton before ever getting to sleep with his wife, the rich man arrived with his gun to the rescue. Dang raised his hands in surrender and explained that he wasn't stealing rice to sell. Unexpectedly, Gon had been played a dirty trick and fell into Dang's trap. He knew he was being suspected by Gon, so he pulled a bait and switch, intentionally letting Gon know he was transporting rice to sell tonight. But actually it was just a pile of scrap wood. This both increased the rich man's trust in him and caused Gon to get a severe scolding from the rich man, dropping Gon's credibility to negative points. Bua saw Gon's wound bleeding again, so she applied some medicine for him. She also believed Gon wasn't lying, it was just that Dang is a bit shady. Bua had a way to help Gon get the rich man's trust back, but she needed Thep's help. Gon didn't like it much, but Bua forced him to go meet Thep, dragging him all the way to his house. Thep listened to the whole story and also felt Gon's words weren't reliable. Dang is the rich man's right-hand man, so there's no way he would do something bad behind his back. But because Bua trusted Gon, Thep reluctantly tried trusting Gon this one time, since it would help the whole village anyway. Bua took out a handkerchief to give to Thep because it was his birthday, which gave him a chance to show off in front of Gon. Gon was super mad but couldn't do anything, so he swallowed his anger and went home, and then got into a huge argument with Bua. He was already mad, and when he went to find Ku, he found out Thep contributed capital to help her open a beauty shop. Gon forced Ku to pay the money back to Thep, but Ku refused and chased him away so he wouldn't be in the way. Gon was fuming inside, so he went drinking until late before dragging himself home. Bua was waiting and saw he was drunk again, so she nagged him a bit, and then they got mad at each other again and no one wanted to talk to the other. The next day at the market, Bua complained to Pin about last night. Pin said she was wrong too. Who in the world praises Thep in front of Gon and gives a birthday gift right in front of him like that? No wonder he felt hurt. Walking past K's shop, Bua caught Thep there too, and after asking, she found out Thep was K's investor. She felt a little sad inside seeing them so close. The gossip ladies standing there saw Bua's expression and immediately went to spread rumors, saying Bua was still involved with Thep and got jealous seeing Thep close to Ku. The rumors reached Gon's ears very quickly. One side is his wife, one side is his sister, and the other is his love rival, giving Gon a massive headache. When he got home that night, Gon was still angry, so he didn't bother talking to Bua. He went into the room and went straight to sleep. As for Ku, she got scolded severely by her dad after he heard the rumors. Knowing Thep was K's investor, he dragged her all the way to Thep's house to have a showdown. Thep hurriedly explained that he only invested money because he saw K's shop had potential to get rich, not for any other reason. Uncle Kem told her to pay the money back to Thep immediately, but she didn't have a dime left to pay. She had poured all the money into renovating the shop already. The village chief added fuel to the fire by saying there was no need to pay it back. Considering it charity, the two fathers rushed at each other like cats and dogs, almost grabbing each other's hair like gossip ladies. They already hated each other, and now with this incident they hated each other even more. Uncle Kem was so mad he dragged Ku home, while the village chief warned Thep that if he kept getting involved with that family he'd be in trouble. But Thep didn't listen and just liked continuing to invest and get involved with Ku. It turned out that when they were young, the rich man, the village chief, and Uncle Kem had a bit of friction and argued loudly, then cut ties and stopped hanging out with each other. The village chief's wife advised him not to be hot-tempered anymore, saying adults' arguments are for adults, while the kids doing business together is their business. Just leave it be and let Thep do what he wants and don't make things more complicated. Although he was hot-headed, the village chief really listened to his wife, so he agreed. As for Ku, she was nagged by Uncle Kem and forbidden from associating with Thep. He talked so much she had to hide in her room and lock the door so her dad wouldn't nag anymore. Uncle Kem was also very helpless because first his son and now his daughter kept getting involved with the people he hated. The next day, while the rich man was working at the rice mill, he suddenly fainted. Gon hurriedly ran over to carry the rich man home, while Ruang ran to find a doctor. Dang smiled like he won the lottery because he saw his time had come. As soon as it got dark, he called his minions to come transport the rice to sell. Money was just changing hands when the village chief led people over to catch them red-handed. Seeing he had nowhere to hide, Dang took a risk and pulled out his gun, then fled into the rice warehouse. Gon and Thep led people to chase him, and the two sides had a fight more intense than an action movie. Gon chased after Dang, who had a gun, so he had the advantage. At the critical moment, Bua appeared and saved Gon from a clear loss. Just like that, Dang was caught without a hitch. The rich man also came to watch the show, only now did he realize he had been betrayed for so long. For this operation, it was lucky that Gon found Kan, one of Dang's henchmen, who agreed to act as a spy and report the rice smuggling deal, which made it easy to round them all up. With enough evidence, Dang and his gang were thrown into the slammer to eat state-sponsored meals 3 times a day and wear the same clothes all year round. Even though the credit belonged to Gon, the rich man and the village chief thought it was Thep's plan, so they praised him to the skies. Thep just took on the task of relaying Gon's idea, asking the rich man to fake an illness to trick Dang because he knew if Gon said it, the rich man definitely wouldn't believe it. The rich man didn't forget to scold Bua a bit because she came to this dangerous place on her own. If she got hurt, he would surely get an earful from his wife. After the job was done, the rich man and the village chief invited each other out for drinks to celebrate. Thep cared about Bua, so he said a few words to her, but Gon got jealous and switched on his possessive mode, gently reminding Thep that he is Bua's husband, and if Thep kept caring about Bua too much like that, he better watch out. Bua was a bit angry when Gon suddenly flew off the handle, and when they got home they had a huge argument. Gon was so mad he forcibly kissed Bua, and she slapped him in the face. Bua told Gon not to push it, saying they only got married to fool the villagers, and that she would never love Gon or consider him her husband. Bua's words were like rubbing salt in Gon's wounds, but he had to try to act like he was fine. After arguing for a while, Gon stormed out, and Bua angrily slammed the door shut. After calming down, Bua opened the door to look for Gon but couldn't see him anywhere. It turned out the guy was so sad he asked Ruang to go drinking to forget about life. While Ruang went to wash his hands, Soy came creeping in and took Gon away. She took him to a motel to do some shady stuff. Luckily, even though Gon was drunk, his mind was still sharp. He pulled a fast one on Soy and bailed. Who would have guessed that he would run into the gossip ladies outside with Soy chasing behind him, giving the busybodies a chance to watch the drama and spread wild rumors. Gon had nowhere else to go, so he went home to sleep. The next morning, Bua went to the house to find Gon and caught Thep riding his bike to pick up Ku and take her to the shop. Bua felt a bit sad, so she started to leave, but Thep hurriedly stopped her. Bua brushed his hand away, saying she already has a husband, and if he wants to pick someone up, he should just go ahead. After that, everyone went their separate ways, and Ku didn't even bother letting Thep give her a ride. For the next few days, Gon refused to go home. Ruang kindly advised his friend that it would be better to swallow his pride and apologize to Bua first, otherwise with that stubbornness, when would they ever make up? The rich man called everyone at the mill for an internal meeting. He announced that he would let Gon be the new foreman replacing Dang, and everyone at the mill agreed, even cheering for Gon like a hero. In another development, Thep brought flowers to Ku to apologize for making her angry that morning. The guy went on the offensive, flirting intensely. Ku replied bluntly that he was still flirting with Bua in the morning, and then came here to hit on her in the afternoon, and she hasn't lost her mind enough to agree. Having said that, Ku went inside ignoring Thep. Although she rejected him, deep down Ku still felt a bit uncomfortable. Back to Gon, Bua brought him lunch, planning to sweet-talk him, but both of them were stubborn, and neither would give in to the other. As bad luck would have it, a worker slipped and caused a bag of rice to fall. Seeing that, Gon immediately pulled Bua towards him, holding her tight in his arms. Bua was too shy, so she pushed him away and ran off out of sight. He was just about to go home when Dot came running in a panic to report that someone had already bailed Dang out of the police station. Naturally, it was none other than the district chief. He told Dang to keep his mouth shut if he knew what was good for him, warning that if he revealed he was working for him, he would send him to meet his maker. The rich man was speechless upon hearing the news, and Gon felt there was something shady about this case. Thinking it must be a very powerful force to be able to bail Dang out, Gon wanted to investigate to see who was the person backing Dang. On the way home, Bua heard the gossip ladies rumoring that Soy and Gon went to a motel together, which made her quite angry. Pin advised Bua to listen to Gon's explanation first, but Bua didn't want to. Meanwhile, Gon didn't know she was mad at him again, so he didn't dare go home and just stayed at the rice mill to keep watch. Uncle Kem saw that and thought the rich man was forcing his son to work through the night, so he came to have a showdown with the rich man. Hearing Uncle Kem speak, Bua finally realized that Dang had caused trouble with Gon in the past, refusing to let it go to the point of dragging people to start a fight with Gon at the bar. That night Gon hid in Bua's room was also because of Dang. Now that Gon was at the rice mill, if Dang came back for revenge, he would be done for. The rich man thought that sounded right, so he brought his baby along with Uncle Kem to the rice mill to bring Gon home, and Bua was worried so she insisted on coming along. Sure enough, Dang still hadn't given up on stealing rice. He led his people there again, but unfortunately for him, he ran into Gon keeping a strict watch, so he had to put the plan on hold and wait for another opportunity to strike. Seeing the rich man and Uncle Kem arrive at the rice mill with Bua, Gon was completely bewildered. The rich man asked him why he was there, saying he didn't ask him to keep watch. Gon replied that he knew Dang's personality, that he would never let things go easily, and that he would definitely come to steal rice, so he was taking precautions. The rich man told Gon to just go home and rest and that he would find someone to guard the warehouse, but Gon refused to leave, causing Bua to leave in a huff. Uncle Kem went home as well. Gon and Ruang invited a few other guys out to the bar to sip a few drinks. After getting completely wasted, the group of guys all went their separate ways. On the way home, Gon kept feeling like someone was following him, when suddenly Dang jumped out and smacked Gon without missing a beat. Gon was a bit drunk but still had plenty of strength to counterattack, knocking Dang unconscious. He was about to smack him a few more times when Dang's gang came running over. Remembering the 36 stratagems, Gon decided running was the best policy. Somehow in his confusion, Gon tripped and fell, and right then a car came from nowhere and hit him again, giving Gon the opportunity to take a vacation in the hospital for a few days. Bua heard the news and worriedly rushed to the hospital to find Gon. Luckily she saw that Gon still had all his limbs and hair intact. It turned out that the car last night was driven by Soy. Soy and her friend thought they had hit Gon and killed him, so they hurriedly dragged him to the front of the hospital and fled because they were afraid of going to jail. Soy got scolded severely by the district chief. Last night he didn't let Soy go out, but Soy still snuck out the back door to go party with her sisters. The district chief was so angry he locked Soy in her room so she couldn't go anywhere, but Soy still had ways to sneak out. As for Gon, he didn't know who hit him or why he was in the hospital, but seeing Bua come to find him made him quite happy. At least he saw that Bua still worried about him. The rich man and Ruang also heard the news and ran to the hospital. They also caught wind that Dang came to seek revenge on Gon last night. The rich man told Ruang to follow him to find Dang and catch him so he wouldn't cause any more trouble. In another development, Bua's mother went to the market to collect debts from everyone when she encountered a robber who snatched her purse. Luckily Uncle Kem caught the robber and returned the money to her. The lady told Uncle Kem that Gon had been hit by a car, which made Uncle Kem extremely upset. He blamed it on the fact that ever since his son went to be the rich man's son-in-law, he was constantly getting injured, and he demanded to take Gon home no matter what. Meanwhile, the rich man, along with Ruang and Ken, went to the boarding house to find Dang but couldn't find him anywhere. He was one step too late because the district chief had already taken Dang away. He forced Dang to leave and wait for things to settle down before returning. The district chief gave Dang his friend's address, told him to go there to help out with work, and forbade him from causing any more trouble. Back to Gon. He and Bua had just arrived home when they saw Soy standing nosily at the door. Being overly worried made Soy look suspicious to Bua, wondering why she knew Gon had been hit by a car. Bua winked at Gon to test Soy a little. Soy was afraid of being exposed, so she kept pretending she didn't know anything until Gon said he vaguely remembered the person who hit him having a voice exactly like Soy's. Hearing that, her mouth formed an O and her eyes went wide, and she bailed immediately. Just as Soy left, Uncle Kem arrived to make Gon pack up and come home with him. Gon refused to leave, so Uncle Kem left in a huff. Soy walked past Ka's beauty shop and nosily ran up to wait in line to get her hair done, but she ran right into Tup Tim mocking her. After arguing with Tup Tim for a while without winning, Soy went home angry, forgetting that she was sneaking out, and got caught by the district chief who scolded her before she could even wipe her face. That night, the rich man invited Ruang over for dinner because he had followed him running around the streets all day looking for Dang. The rich man thought they should let the police handle this case or wait for Dang to turn himself in, since they didn't know where to look anyway. The lady told the rich man he should worry about making peace with Uncle Kem first. The rich man knew Uncle Kem held grudges like a leech, so he told Gon to go home and explain everything to his father clearly, lest he say the rich man's family was breaking up their father-son relationship. The next morning, Gon followed the rich man out to the field to check the villagers' rice. Gon heard his dad say the rich man was a cold-blooded capitalist, but now he saw that he cared very much about others and helped the villagers a lot. Hearing a farmer say someone came to buy his field for a price much higher than farming, so he would sell the land for money after harvesting this crop, the rich man called the village chief over to discuss it. If they left things as they were, the villagers would sell all their land, gaining immediate profit but forgetting long-term benefits, and he also didn't want the village land to fall into outsiders' hands. Gon suggested letting his father lend a hand, but both the rich man and the village chief strongly opposed it. By evening, Gon snuck back home to report the land-selling news to his father. Gon advised him to cooperate with the rich man and the village chief to help the people. Uncle Kem stubbornly insisted that the rich man and the village chief were cold-blooded capitalists who only cared about their own profit, so he refused. Ruang ran over to call Gon to check what was wrong with the buffalo, and since he named the buffalo Bua, Uncle Kem thought he meant Gon's wife Bua. All three rushed to the buffalo pen. Gon asked his dad to go find a vet, and asked Ruang to go tell Bua he wouldn't be coming home tonight. Bua was still waiting for Gon, and hearing Ruang say Gon's buffalo was sick, she followed Ruang to check the situation. Gon had just said he might stay there for 3 days, but when he turned around, Bua was nowhere to be seen. It turned out Bua went home to grab a few things to bring over to Gon. It was already late, and Gon planned to take Bua home, but she said he didn't need to and that she could get back on her own. She told Gon to let her go find the village chief to report the sick buffalo so the villagers could take precautions. The next morning, the village chief and Thep followed Bua to Gon's place to look at the buffalo, and everyone was surprised because Gon was very knowledgeable about the illness the buffalo had caught, understanding every detail from the symptoms to the cure, and even how to look after the buffalo. Even the village chief had to give Gon a compliment, advising him to take the civil service exam to work for the government before he left. Bua also made the same suggestion as the village chief, but Gon just wanted to live simply like he does now, and didn't want to do anything else. After this incident, Bua's view of Gon became a bit softer. For the past few days, Gon stayed to watch the buffalo without taking his eyes off it, from morning to night and night to morning. Gon's efforts weren't in vain. By the third day, the buffalo had recovered, making Gon as happy as can be. The buffalo was fine now. So Gon made his way home and saw Bua looking at his sleeping spot and smiling to herself, so he teased her asking if she missed him, which made Bua shy and jumpy. While sitting down to eat, the rich man found out Gon used Bua's name for the buffalo and got so mad he could explode. He told Gon to hurry back to the rice mill to help out. That afternoon, the village chief came to see the rich man. He had sent people to scout around but didn't know who was buying up the villagers' land. Gon suggested setting up a cooperative to help the people, and both men laughed out loud. They told Gon the story of why they were angry with Gon's father. That year, Uncle Kem kept misunderstanding that the village chief and the rich man wanted to set up a cooperative to trick the villagers. Their goal in setting up the cooperative was to teach people how to farm effectively, but looking at it from every angle. The rich man was the only source for fertilizer and seeds, so doing that was no different than letting the rich man make a profit. They thought everything was okay until one day Uncle Kem came and made a huge scene because the rich man collected money from Uncle Kem in the village, leaving him without a penny in his pocket. The rich man explained that Uncle Kem borrowed money from the group, and according to the rules, he had to pay by the due date. Uncle Kem felt that the rich man was turning the people into his debtors. After that incident, Uncle Kem cut ties and wouldn't participate in the cooperative anymore, and since the people trusted Uncle Kem, seeing that, they all left the group too. So if they set up a cooperative again now, it definitely won't succeed, so it's better to find another way. Gon still wanted to set up the cooperative. The workers at the mill suggested that since they interacted with Gon and knew he could do the job, they would trust him, but the villagers definitely wouldn't. If Thep helps, then maybe the villagers might agree. Thinking it made sense, although it gave Thep some credit. It was good for the villagers, so Gon still wanted to do it. He ran over to the rich man and the village chief to propose letting Thep help initiate it. After all, the villagers' benefit was more important. Gon had some knowledge about plants, so he would also lend a hand in teaching the villagers how to farm. When he got home that night, Bua knew Gon was thinking of the villagers without caring about his own pride. She was both proud and satisfied, and she even took the initiative to help Gon dry his hair. The next morning, the village chief and the rich man gathered the villagers for an internal meeting. At first, the people didn't trust Thep in the new cooperative because it had failed before, plus Uncle Kem kept adding fuel to the fire. Seeing the situation wasn't looking good, Gon spoke up to persuade the villagers, telling them about the benefits of the cooperative and assuring them they wouldn't suffer any losses. The people were still suspicious. So Bua jumped in and announced that whoever signed up for the group today would get a reduction on the debt they owed her father, collecting only the principal and not the interest. The rich man agreed with Bua's idea, and the villagers were overjoyed when they heard that. Only Uncle Kem was extremely annoyed, and he dragged Gon outside to scold him. Uncle Kem recounted that years ago, the rich man opened a big shop thanks to the cooperative. The rich man was kind enough to share the profits with the village chief and Uncle Kem, but Uncle Kem wouldn't take it and even cursed the two of them for making a profit from the people's hardship, considering it bribe money. No matter what Gon said, Uncle Kem still held on to his prejudice that the village chief and the rich man were bad people. Gon said he should at least trust him, as he would make the cooperative useful for the people. That night everyone celebrated the cooperative. Bua suggested putting the cooperative office at Gon's garden house, since it had plenty of plants, land and livestock, and it was convenient for the people to learn the trade. Everyone raised both hands and feet in agreement immediately. After drinking and going home, Gon couldn't sleep. He kept sighing because of his dad's stubbornness, not knowing how to make him understand. When morning came, Bua followed Gon out to the field to check on the model of growing rice while raising fish. At first he was showing off to Bua, but when they arrived, they saw the whole school of fish floating belly up. Gon checked a few fish and suspected someone used electric shock on the fish, which was what wiped out the whole field of fish like that. Gon picked up some fish to bring over to the village chief. He knew his dad was still mad, so he didn't bring any for him. On the way, they met Thep, whose legs were covered in mud. Thep said that earlier that morning, while passing Gon's field, he saw someone lying face down in the water. Thinking something was wrong, Thep jumped in to save him, only to find it was Uncle Kem holding an electric fishing kit. Gon believed his dad wouldn't do something bad like that, so he told Thep not to tell anyone and that he would prove the truth himself. Gon took the basket of fish to his dad's house and casually mentioned that the fish in his field had been shocked with electricity, but strangely, not a single fish was missing. Hearing this, Uncle Kem got a bit nervous and snuck to the back of the house to hide the electric kit, but Gon caught him red-handed. Uncle Kem explained that earlier that morning, he saw two guys stealing Gon's fish with electricity, and when he rushed over to catch them, they pushed him into the field. Gon didn't really believe it, and Uncle Kem felt hurt that Gon trusted outsiders, especially people he hates, more than his own father. He sobbed and walked away in a huff, refusing to talk to Gon anymore. Late at night, Gon went to find Ruong to talk, and while passing by a bar, he heard a drunk man complaining that if he hadn't been interrupted today, he would have caught enough fish to sell. Gon went over to ask if he was the one who used electricity in his field. The man immediately pulled out a gun to attack Gon, but Gon took him down and brought him to the station for questioning. Now Gon realized he had misunderstood his father, and was afraid to go home and apologize, fearing he wouldn't be forgiven. Gon went back to his wife's house and saw Bua waiting for him. Having fallen asleep in the hall, he gently carried her to the bedroom. In the morning, Gon finally told Bua that the person who shocked his fish wasn't his father. Meanwhile, Uncle Kem was still very angry. He packed up all of Gon's things and brought them to him, cutting off their father-son relationship and saying they were no longer family. Gon chased after his father to apologize for the misunderstanding, but Uncle Kem was determined not to make up. Bua stayed home to help Gon unpack, and Molly ran in to play, finding the bamboo propeller she used to play with him in the past. While things were getting emotional, Pin came to call them to the riverbank to check on Gon. As he seemed very sad, Bua went out and saw the young man sitting there looking like a miserable lump, so she cheered him up and told him to let her help sweet-talk Uncle Kem. Gon was so sad that he asked for a hug from Bua. Right then, Thep happened to pass by and saw them, making him even more determined to make Kasuffer to get revenge on Gon. That night, Bua rushed over to find Uncle Kem, reporting that she didn't know what was wrong with Gon, but he was rolling on the ground having a fit. Uncle Kem heard this and worriedly ran all the way to find Gon, only to realize he had been tricked. Gon was perfectly fine. So, He got mad again and tried to leave, but Bua and Gon chased him down to stop him. Bua talked until she was blue in the face before Uncle Kem finally stood still to listen to Gon's apology. Gon promised that from now on, he wouldn't trust outsiders and doubt his father again, and Bua also knelt down to help Gon ask for forgiveness. Uncle Kem agreed to stop being mad, but still had to give Gon a kick to vent his anger. To thank Bua for helping him, Gon took her out on the river to pick water lilies and lotuses. Gon tried to lean in for a cheek kiss, but she dodged. And after a bit of struggling, the boat flipped over. Gon panicked because he couldn't see Bua surfacing, and he worriedly dived down to look for her but couldn't find her anywhere. Bua was just trying to prank him, but she scared the life out of the young man. He hugged her tight and wouldn't let go. In another development, the district chief turned out to be the anonymous person secretly buying the villagers' land. Seeing the cooperative being formed, he was worried the villagers would change their minds about selling. Soy whispered that the cooperative hadn't been fully established yet because Uncle Kem had friction with the village chief and the wealthy man. If they used this to cause trouble, the people would sell their land to them again. Sounded crazy but convincing. So the district chief called Uncle Kem to his house to ask why he opposed the cooperative. Back to Gon. Ever since the boat incident, Bua had been avoiding him, making the young man think she was mad. While eating, Bua acted very strange, making the whole family think the couple was fighting again. On the other side, Thep brought Ku home and was chased away by Uncle Kem with a gun. This young man was very stubborn. He stood his ground and asked for Uncle Kem's permission to court Ku. No matter how much the old man chased him, Thep refused to leave. Ruang caught wind of the gossip and rushed to tell Gon. After hearing it, he and Bua rushed home and saw his dad, Thep, and Ku arguing in the middle of the yard, and the village chief also showed up to join the drama. After fighting with Thep, Uncle Kem turned to have a heated showdown with the village chief. Gon didn't believe Thep was sincerely pursuing his sister because just a few days ago he was still flirting with Bua. He wanted Thep to look straight at Bua and confirm that he no longer had any feelings for her. Thep was put in a tough spot, but because of his revenge plan, he said firmly that he likes Ku now and doesn't like Bua anymore. Uncle Kem still didn't believe it, so Gon quickly grabbed his dad and took him inside, telling the village chief to take Thep home first. Thep said a very sweet goodbye to Ku before leaving. Bua wanted to have a private talk with Thep for a moment. She said she was very happy to see Thep change and hoped he wouldn't hurt Ku. After saying that, Bua went back to Gon. Uncle Kem was still grumbling at Ku, forbidding her from seeing Thep, but Ku didn't listen. Uncle Kem was so frustrated his chest hurt, but there was nothing he could do. When the village chief got home, he scolded Thep some more. But Thep still declared he was serious and would pursue Ku no matter what. Tup Tim knew perfectly well there was no way Thep was sincere with Ku. She wanted to seduce Thep, but every time she was about to make a move, the first wife appeared. Being a second wife living in someone else's house and having been caught several times by the first wife having dark intentions toward Thep, Tup Tim was taught a lesson by the first wife. She gave a gentle reminder that if she kept flirting with her son, she better watch out for a bitter end. That midnight, Gon kept asking Bua how she felt if Thep became his brother-in-law, but Bua didn't answer. Gon switched to asking about the lotus-picking incident to see if Bua was still mad at him, and Bua smiled and said she wasn't mad. After talking back and forth for a while, Gon even thought Bua was giving him the green light, but before he could get happy, his smile vanished because Bua pulled out her gun. Gon was so scared he obediently went to sleep. A new day arrived, and Bua's sisters helped Gon distribute registration forms to the villagers. Thep ran over to report that the people joining the cooperative were demanding to withdraw, and the village chief and his wife were trying to persuade them to reconsider. For some reason, all the villagers thought the cooperative was only created to benefit the rich man and the village chief, and that all the profits would go straight into their pockets. They firmly believed that selling land for money was better than working their tails off in the fields. On top of that, the district chief also came to suggest temporarily postponing the formation of the cooperative until after the Lantern Festival, or wait for someone other than the rich man to invest here before starting the cooperative, so the benefits wouldn't just fall into one person's hands. Uncle Kem added his support, making the villagers nod their heads in agreement. Gon racked his brain to find a way to make the people trust the cooperative again. He remembered a friend of his who could help, so he wrote a letter to that friend. That night, Thep came to pick up Ku and take her home. He also wanted Ku to try and persuade Uncle Kem to stop calling on the people to oppose the cooperative. Ku agreed but felt that this task was quite a tough nut to crack. Very soon the Lantern Festival was approaching, and the villagers made lanterns together in the temple yard. When evening came, the festival took place, and everyone was excited to go out and have fun. Gon and Bua also got dressed up to release lanterns. Thep ran over to beg Ku to let him release a lantern with her, but Ku refused. Bua immediately gave her lantern to Thep to chase after Ku. Tup Tim followed Ku first, advising her that she shouldn't trust Thep because he wasn't sincere with her. Ku wasn't angry at all after hearing that, trying to act like she didn't care about what Tup Tim said. Thep saw the two of them talking and felt like it was a bad omen. At the auspicious time, everyone went to the riverbank together to release lanterns and pray. As for Ku, even though she acted like she didn't care about Tim's reminder, she still had some thoughts about it deep down. Thep helped Ku light the candle on the lantern, and then they released it together. Bua and Gon were also releasing lanterns together. After they finished, Molly followed her parents to the Dongcam Village beauty pageant. Every year Bua enters and wins the prize, but this year it was for junior beauty queens, so Molly signed up. Every year Bua is the village beauty queen, but not once has Gon complimented her looks. He always says she's ugly, which makes Bua hate him so much. This year Gon teased her again, so Bua walked away in a huff, and Gon hurriedly chased after her to sweet-talk her. Gon praised Bua as the most beautiful person in his eyes. He said he used to call her ugly just because he wanted to be special in her heart. As long as he caught her eye, he didn't care if she hated him. It was also because Bua only thought about Thep and only had eyes for him. If Gon didn't act that way, Bua would never remember him. Gon was just about to say the key words to confess his love when a pretty girl ran over and hugged him tight. He quickly pushed her away and introduced her to Bua. This was Kwasuan, the friend he had written to for help. Gon introduced Bua as his wife, leaving Seon totally stunned and a bit surprised. The three of them went back to the temple yard to meet everyone, and Ku was delighted to see Seon and ran over to welcome her. Ku was going to invite Seon to sleep at her house, but Bua spoke up first, suggesting Seon come to her place. Not only that, Bua let Seon sleep in the bedroom while making Gon sleep outside. Gon pulled Seon over to the riverbank for a private meeting, begging Seon not to tell anyone he had gone to school, as Gon doesn't like showing off his education. Seon agreed, and Gon happily held her hand and flirted a bit to butter her up. Bua saw this from a distance and felt quite a lot of discomfort. On the other side, Ku went home and told her dad that Seon had arrived. Uncle Kim knew Seon because when Gon was in school, he had met Seon and her father once and didn't have a very good impression. Seon's father looked down on Gon's family because they were farmers, calling them peasants, which made Uncle Kim so angry he wanted to have a showdown. Hearing Ku say Bua invited Seon home, Uncle Kim was a bit surprised because Seon had feelings for Gon. He knew there was about to be a good show to watch. Knowing Gon called Seon to help set up the cooperative made Uncle Kim even angrier. Back at Gon's place, the guy was setting up a mosquito net outside, and Seon was quick to help, sticking to Gon like glue. The rich couple saw Gon and Seon acting so close and felt they looked more like ex-lovers than friends. Bua had a grumpy face, making Gon think she was jealous, but Bua insisted she didn't care to be jealous. She was about to leave, but Gon blocked her with his arms, his face close to hers as if he was ready for a kiss. When they heard Seon screaming her head off in the bathroom, the whole family rushed down to check, thinking something happened to her. But it turned out she had caught a gecko. She thought it was cute, so she screamed for effect, giving the whole family a scare. After bathing, Seon went to the room. Bua wondered how Seon knew Gon and why she was willing to help him, agreeing to come here just because of one letter. Seon replied bluntly that friends just help each other. Seon snooped around the couple's shared room but didn't see a single item belonging to Gon. She walked around and saw a box on the table, knew it was Gon, so she opened it to look. Seon picked up a photo of herself with Gon and brought it to Bua, intentionally provoking her by saying that if she and Gon didn't marry for love, then she still had a chance to win Gon back, right? Bua heard that and was so mad she couldn't say a word. The next day during the meal, Seon was very attentive to Gon, picking up food for him and even asking Bua for permission to borrow Gon for a day to walk around the village and discuss the cooperative. She spoke while grabbing Gon's wrist, acting very close to him. Bua was bitter and angry and went straight into her room, scolding Gon in her heart. Just yesterday he called her the most beautiful, and now a friend just as pretty as her shows up. Out in the field, who knows where the rumors came from, but the gossip ladies were buzzing that Gon brought a mistress home. Soy heard it and flew like the wind to the market to find Gon walking with Seon. Hearing Soy talk, Gon finally realized the villagers were gossiping like crazy behind his back. To make matters worse, Seon naturally held Gon's hand as if she wanted to confirm the rumors were true. Soy wanted to rush in and scratch Seon, but unexpectedly Seon just gently put Soy's wrist back in place. The villagers got a lungful of drama. On the other side, Bua went to the rice mill to work instead of Gon, leaving the rich man bewildered because Bua had never been interested in this stuff before. The rich man asked Pin to go investigate what was wrong with Bua. So during the meal, Pin casually asked if Bua was jealous of Seon. Later, Soy ran to find Bua and asked why she was letting Gon's mistress run wild like that, asking if she felt anything and why she let them hold hands publicly in the market. The rumor that Gon brought a mistress home to sleep reached Ku at lightning speed, and the busybodies even rumored that the mistress was pregnant. Ku explained that she wasn't a mistress but just Gon's friend, but no one believed her. They even said Thep and Bua used to be a couple. Now Bua has Gon has a mistress, and Thep is flirting with Ku, so the most pitiful person is still Bua. Hearing that, Ku felt quite sad. In another development, Gon led Seon to his garden house to hang out. While getting grass for the buffalo, Seon suddenly flirted and added a hand-holding combo that made Gon freeze for 5 seconds. In the middle of the silence, Bua interrupted, telling Gon that Uncle Kem and the village chief were fighting. Hearing that, Gon rushed off in a hurry to find his dad at the police station. Seeing Bua didn't go with Gon and treated Gon's business as none of her concern, Seon took the opportunity to tell her that if she didn't marry Gon for love, she should give Gon to her. She insisted she loved Gon more than Bua did. At Gon's place, the two fathers refused to make peace with each other, and even the police officer was at a total loss. Earlier, the village chief and Thep were on the road when they met Uncle Kem talking to some villagers. The two men are like oil and water. Uncle Kem didn't trust that the village chief had good intentions, and the chief accidentally mentioned the past, which made Kem lose his cool and punch him. Basically, back when they were young, Uncle Kem and the rich man both pursued Pa Ka, Uncle Kem's late wife. The rich man saw that Pa Ka had more feelings for Uncle Kem, so he gave up. When Pa Ka got sick, the rich man lent her money for treatment, which hurt Uncle Kem's pride every time the subject was brought up. That's why the two of them were fighting. Even at the police station, they still wanted to go at each other. Thep and Gon had to talk them down for a long time before the two fathers finally agreed to settle it and go home. Gon took his dad home, and Uncle Kem asked if he knew the villagers were rumoring that he had a mistress. Gon was completely caught off guard and told his dad not to believe the gossip, saying it was just a lie. Gon rushed home to check on Bua to see if she was mad at him. However, Bua coldly said she was fine and that she neither hated nor liked Gon, which left him speechless. The next day Bua, Gon, and Seon went to the garden house to clean up so the villagers could come over to study in a few days. Seon tripped and almost fell, and Gon flew over like lightning to catch her. Seeing Bua watching, Seon intentionally kissed Gon on the cheek. While the air was tense, Gon noticed someone lurking and peeking at them, so he chased him down and caught him. This guy confessed that someone hired him to find Seon and even showed him a photo of her. Meanwhile, Ku bumped into an elegantly dressed man in a suit at the market, but his personality wasn't polite at all. Even though he was in the wrong, he refused to apologize and instead insulted Ku, calling her a country girl. The villagers saw Ku being bullied and spoke up to defend her, chasing the man away. Ruong was also there, and Ku held his arm, which was seen by Pin. Pin got jealous as hell and left. Ruong chased after her to explain that he and Ku grew up together and were just close friends, but Pin was still sulking. Back with Gon, as the three were walking through the market, Seon saw the man in the suit who had just bumped into Ku. Suddenly, she pretended to have a headache and be dizzy so Gon would take her somewhere else to avoid meeting him. Bua saw Gon supporting Seon and being so attentive to her, and although she was mad, she couldn't do anything and even had to go get water for her to drink. Gon asked Seon if she had run away from her father to come here, which is why people were looking for her. Seon didn't want to hide it anymore, so she admitted she came here without telling her dad. And the person looking for her was her fiancé, Cha Lit, the man in the suit from earlier. Seon didn't like Lit, so she disobeyed her dad. When she received the letter, she planned to ask Gon for help, but she didn't expect Gon to be married already. After talking, Gon invited Seon home for dinner. The rich man's wife had heard the rumors and was already angry, so seeing Gon so attentive to Seon, she scolded him. Seon felt the family wasn't very welcoming, so she refused to eat with them. Gon was afraid it would be dangerous for Seon alone at the boarding house, so he took her back and ate dinner with her there. Seeing that her sister was at risk of losing her husband, Molly played a prank to scare Seon with a ghost. It ended with her getting a major scolding from her mother. Molly had heard the adults saying Seon was Gon's mistress and didn't want Seon to steal Bua's husband, which is why she did it. After the incident, everyone dispersed to their rooms. Gon followed Bua to explain that he and Seon were just friends, not a mistress or anything like the rumor said. Bua scolded him, saying he acted too sweet towards Seon, which is why people misunderstood and spread rumors, so he had no one to blame but himself. Gon felt like Bua was being jealous, but Bua argued she wasn't jealous or possessive. Since there was no love between them, there was no need for jealousy. The next morning, the rich man called Gon aside to talk privately, asking if he had feelings for Seon. He said if he didn't, he shouldn't let Bua suffer the villagers' gossip anymore. Later, Gon and Seon went to the garden house to clean up. As soon as Gon went to the back of the house, Cha Lit arrived to find Seon, so the two went outside to talk. Gon came back, didn't see Seon, and ran off worriedly to find her, completely ignoring Bua who had just arrived. The two of them found Seon and Cha Lit together. Cha Lit had business, so he left first. Seeing Gon so worried about Seon, Bua was visibly annoyed and mocked him, asking why the villagers wouldn't gossip, saying if they wanted to be a real couple, she'd help set them up. After saying that, Bua left and ran into Thep halfway. Gon and Seon followed behind. Gon got jealous seeing Thep holding Bua's hand. Thep bluntly replied that he and Bua were just friends, just like Gon and Sion. Thep scolded Gon, asking what kind of man lets people rumor he brought a mistress home and fails to protect his wife's honor. They argued back and forth until it was a total mess. Sion quickly pulled Gon away first, and Bua couldn't hold back her tears seeing that. Thep tried to take Bua home but she refused. She didn't want to talk to anyone right now. In another development, the district chief led Cha Lit to meet Uncle Kem. He introduced Cha Lit as someone who would open a rice shop to compete with the rich man and take over as the only rice hub in the village. He wanted to use Uncle Kem to gain the villagers' trust to get rich. Cha Lit plans to suck all the money out of the people until they have nothing left. Then the people will agree to sell their land, and they will reap the benefits. At Bua's place, she went home and sat in a corner of her room crying her eyes out, thinking about what was going on between Gon and Sion, and deep down her tears were like a vast ocean. At that time, Thep went to see Ku intending to give her a gift, but he saw that she had a stomachache, so he carried her straight to the hospital. Thep was so worried that he stayed outside waiting for Ku all afternoon. It turned out Ku had gastritis because she wasn't eating her meals on time. Hearing that, Thep offered to cook and bring food to her from now on, and he would wait until she finished eating. Ku said casually that if he wanted to take care of her, he had to do it for a lifetime and couldn't just do it halfway and then quit. That night, Thep went drinking and ran into Ruong, who was also drinking. Ruong complained that because Gon forced him to watch over Ku, it made Pin misunderstand. Thep also scolded that if Gon hadn't sent Ruong to guard Ku, they wouldn't have fought, so Gon was the one at fault. After drinking his fill, Thep struggled for a long time before he could get home. He crawled and dragged himself to the front door, and then just lost power and fell asleep right there. It happened that the village chief and his wife were out on business and hadn't come back yet, so only Tuptim was home, and she helped Thep into his room. She was just about to hook up with him when the first wife arrived and caught her red-handed, grabbing Tuptim's hair and pulling it back. Luckily, the couple had run into a drunk Ruong earlier, and knew Thep was also totally wasted. If they hadn't come home early, this whole thing would have looked great to the villagers. The village chief found out Tuptim planned to hook up with Thep, so he was so angry that he kicked her out and told her to pack her bags. No matter how much Tuptim cried and begged, she couldn't stay. She left holding a grudge, vowing in her heart that one day she would come back for revenge. It was dark and she had nowhere to go. But Tuptim was helped by Dang, who took her to a boarding house. This guy Dang had secretly returned to the village not long ago, but he had a new boss backing him so he wasn't afraid of anything. He just came back because he felt like it. A new day arrived, and Bua and Gon were still in a cold war. Whenever they saw each other's faces they avoided them, and no one wanted to speak first. Bua followed her mother to the market. Her mother knew perfectly well that the couple was fighting again, which was why they were avoiding each other like the plague. At the market, they met Tuptim arguing with the gossip ladies about being kicked out of the house. Tuptim even publicly said she was Thep's wife when she saw Ku walking up. Modern women only put on powder, they don't fight. So Ku acted like she didn't care since she wasn't the one pursuing Thep. It was Thep who was clinging to her. Ku said that since she was wearing pretty makeup today it wasn't convenient to fight, so she left first. The villagers got a good laugh because Ku's move was so top-notch. She didn't even have to lift a finger but still made Tuptim cough up blood from anger. She said that, but actually Ku felt very uncomfortable inside. She tried to act like she was fine, but deep down she felt very lonely. Bua knew this so she ran after her to comfort Ku with a few words, advising her not to overthink it because Thep would never sleep with that shameless Tuptim. Just as she finished speaking, Bua saw Dang acting very sneaky. Without thinking much, Bua followed him into a deserted alley. Bua hesitated on whether to go in or not, but her mother called her to go home so she just let it go. It was a good thing too, otherwise they would have all been done for because Dang knew he was being followed. The mother and daughter were preparing to go home when a gossip lady rushed over to report that she had accidentally told Gon the gossip about Tuptim and Thep. And now Gon was heading to the village chief's house to settle the score with Thep. Bua worriedly rushed over to check it out. As soon as Gon met Thep, he gave him a painful smack and scolded him for being a total jerk, flirting with his sister while also sleeping with his dad's mistress. Thep still didn't understand what was happening. Luckily Bua arrived in time to stop Gon. The village chief came down and firmly stated that nothing out of line had happened between Thep and Tuptim. Hearing his parents speak, Thep finally realized he was almost hooked up with last night. Gon knew he had misunderstood so he apologized to Thep. After things were settled, Bua advised Thep to go see Ku first. Ku was probably sitting and crying alone somewhere right now. Bua and Gon went home together. Gon opened his mouth to apologize to Bua first, and Bua also apologized to Gon for defending Thep in front of him before, which made him feel hurt. So the couple was happy with each other again. Thep rushed to the shop to find Ku to explain that he and Tuptim had nothing going on. Thep took out the bracelet he intended to give to Ku the other day but hadn't had the chance. Thep told Ku to trust him, saying that he had been very sincere in pursuing her all along. Soy was standing outside and caught the good news. So she ran like the wind to spread rumors all over the market. At noon, Bua brought food to Seon and was mocked by her. Seon said Bua didn't love Gon but was still holding on to him tightly. Bua hit back, saying Seon was also shameless for having a fiancé but still demanding she give up her husband. Seon confidently replied that she didn't love Cha Lit, so she knew what she had to do. She also didn't mind being a mistress, but the problem was that a person like Gon would definitely not agree. So if Bua didn't love Gon, she should let go so Gon could find someone else more suitable. Bua wouldn't lose. She told Seon to just stay calm, because even if she let go and Gon refused to leave, there was nothing she could do to help. After arguing, Bua left and met Gon at the gate, but didn't even bother to say hello, just gliding past him. Seon invited Gon to eat with her but Gon refused, hurriedly chasing after Bua to see what she was upset about. While he was busy sweet-talking her, a neighbor came over to congratulate them on Koo and Thep getting married, which left them both stunned. On the other side, Pin also heard this rumor, so she wasn't mad at Ruong anymore, and she brought food for him to eat. Ruong finally realized that Pin had been jealous lately, which was why she was mad. Ruong whispered that he only saw Koo as a younger sister and only had Pin in his heart. Meanwhile, Tup Tim ran to the shop to find Koo, and as soon as they met she scolded Koo loudly. Koo was so mad she gave her a smack to teach her a lesson for mistaking a tiger for a kitten. Tup Tim lunged in for a fight, when suddenly Thep appeared and pushed Tup Tim away. Seeing the rumors going too far, the two families held a private meeting with all members present. The village chief asked Thep and Koo what the wedding situation was all about. Uncle Kem didn't agree with this marriage, but since Koo's reputation was on the line, Gon advised his dad to listen to how Thep planned to take responsibility first. Thep was pushed into a corner and took a gamble by asking to marry Koo, but Uncle Kem strongly opposed it, saying he would never accept Thep as his son-in-law. The village chief and his wife asked Koo if she agreed to marry. Koo thought for a while and nodded yes, which made Uncle Kem even angrier. But thinking that if he didn't allow the marriage, Koo's reputation would be ruined, he reluctantly accepted, though he didn't forget to scold Thep a few more times before going home. That night, Thep went to a bar to drink alone. In truth, he didn't really want to marry Koo that much either. Ruong and Pin ran into a drunk Thep and kindly planned to take him home, but fearing the village chief would scold them, they took Thep to Koo's house instead. Uncle Kem felt a bit sorry and went inside to pour some tea. But who would have guessed that Thep, sitting outside and being too drunk, said he didn't love Koo and didn't want to be a son-in-law in this house because he still liked Bua. Unfortunately, Uncle Kem heard it, and Pin quickly ran home to call Gon to rescue Thep. Ruong stayed behind to stop Uncle Kem and tell him to stay calm and not do anything reckless. Luckily, Gon arrived in time, otherwise Thep would have had a hole in him. While Gon was still trying to persuade his dad to think of Koo, since the wedding was already settled, Thep let the alcohol talk and bluntly declared he wouldn't marry. He didn't like Koo, and he only loved Bua. After hearing that, Gon didn't even bother stopping his dad anymore. The village chief, his wife, and Bua had just arrived, and Uncle Kem pulled the trigger. But Thep was fine because Koo pushed him out of the way. She scolded Uncle Kem, asking how long he planned to use a gun and if he only felt satisfied when others got hurt. Koo pulled Thep to a corner to talk privately. Gon and Bua were curious, so they followed behind to eavesdrop. Koo asked Thep if he wanted to marry her and told him to speak honestly. Thep kept hesitating and didn't answer, so Koo said right then that she wouldn't marry anymore. She'd rather be gossiped about by the villagers than marry someone insincere like Thep. Koo returned the bracelet to him and left. Gon knew his sister had run to the field to cry, so he ran out to comfort her. Earlier, Koo had heard everything Gon said, and she only saved Thep because she didn't want her dad to hurt anyone. Uncle Kem and the village chief were still arguing when Koo arrived back and told the parents of both sides that there would be no wedding. As for the villagers, let them gossip for a few days and they would forget. With those words from Koo, Uncle Kem boldly splashed a bucket of water on Thep and told the village chief to take his son home and never come back. After it was over, everyone dispersed and went home. Koo hid in her room crying alone, and Uncle Kem came to knock on the door and apologized to Koo, explaining he did it because he was worried about her and didn't want her to fall for a bad person like Thep. Koo told her dad not to worry about her and then slammed the door to keep crying. Gon and Bua went home together, but Gon's mind kept replaying Thep's words about still loving Bua. All that night, Gon kept thinking. Bua saw him being quiet and refusing to speak when asked, so she teased him, asking if he was missing his best friend again. Gon explained he only saw Sun as a friend and had no other intentions. Gon pushed Bua onto the bed and continued, saying he wasn't so evil that he would force someone who didn't love him, especially when he knew that person hadn't forgotten their ex. Bua didn't understand at all because earlier she hadn't heard the part about Thep still loving her. Thep's place. He wasn't sure what he wanted in his heart. His mother advised him to think carefully because a wedding is no small matter. It happened once with Bua, and this time he should think it through. She said Koo was clear about her feelings, but how did Thep feel about her? If not, they should end it here. Which would be good for both sides. On the other side, Ku was having trouble because a bunch of women kept coming over to ask about the wedding. After talking back and forth, she found out it was Soy who had spread the news. Ku pulled Soy inside to have it out. Soy explained she saw Thep give her a gold bracelet, so she thought they were getting married, and besides, Thep was very close to Ku and came there every day. Ku declared there was no wedding at all and got defensive, chasing all the gossip ladies out of the shop. Meanwhile, Bua brought food to the garden house for Siwon and Gon, and saw them standing talking outside the buffalo pen. Bua wanted to ask Gon what Thep had said last night after all. Siwon hurriedly took the lunchbox and called Gon inside to eat, but Gon still stood with Bua. He asked Bua what she would do if Thep still liked her, and if she would go back to him, but Bua didn't answer. Gon thought it was true and was so heartbroken that he went into the tent. Siwon saw her chance and grabbed the opportunity to hug Gon. Since Gon was also sad, he just stood still. Seeing that, Bua left with tears streaming down her face. In another development, Thep was at the market and the villagers kept rumoring that since he was dumped by Bua and then dumped by Ku, no one would want him later. They even said the village chief's family was going bankrupt, which was why Tup Tim left. Thep was so bitter he went to find Ku to apologize, but Ku didn't want to hear it and chased him away. As soon as Thep reached the door, he ran into Tup Tim. He had planned to ignore her, but the girl said she had a way to help Thep make up with Ku, so he stopped. At Gon's place, he met his dad walking with Cha Lit. When asked, he said the district chief asked him to take Cha Lit around to meet the people and gather information to open a shop. Gon mocked Cha Lit, saying his reputation wasn't as good as the rich man's, and even if he opened a shop, it would close soon, so he shouldn't bother. Cha Lit wasn't even angry. Instead, he provoked Gon back, confidently saying there was no way he would go bankrupt. That night, Dang and his minions followed Ku, drugged her, and took her to a boarding house. It turned out Tup Tim was the mastermind behind it, ordering Dang to ruin Ku's life and dump her in the middle of the market so she would be completely humiliated. Luckily, Ku knew a bit of martial arts. Once she woke up a little, she showed off some moves, beating up each minion and running outside. Unfortunately, she was caught by Dang. At the critical moment, Thep appeared like a hero, beat Dang up, and told Ku to run first. Ku called more people to come back and save Thep. After everything was done, Ku left, and Thep hurriedly chased after her to explain that saying he liked Bua was just a slip of the tongue. Ku didn't want to hear it and just went home. On the way, Gon and Ruong ran into the two of them, and Thep told Gon that Dang had just tried to pull something dirty on Ku. They called the village chief to the wealthy man's house to report that Dang had returned because they were afraid he would take revenge on the rice mill. Everyone ran to the rice mill to check around, but nothing suspicious was found. A few days later, Dang found out the wealthy man's family was out harvesting in the fields, so he snuck to the mill, tied up all the workers and started smashing the place. Everyone in the village was still in the field harvesting rice together. The wealthy man and Gon took a break and went back to the mill, only to see stuff scattered everywhere and the machinery destroyed. It turned out Dang was working for Cha Lit. Cha Lit was actually the one who told Dang that the wealthy man's family was in the field today, which was a great chance to strike. The wealthy man's rice milling machines were all broken, and with the new rice being harvested, there was definitely no time to fix them, so they wouldn't be able to deliver the rice orders on time. While they didn't know what to do, Siwon spoke up to offer a helping hand. In another development, Uncle Kem went to see the district chief and overheard him and Cha Lit talking about sabotaging the wealthy man's rice mill, so he stormed in and scolded them. Even though Uncle Kem hated the wealthy man, using dirty tactics to play tricks on each other was unacceptable. The district chief chased after him and manipulated Kem, telling him not to be angry because doing that would prevent the cooperative from being formed, so Uncle Kem calmed his anger down. Back at the wealthy man's place, Siwon had a friend who worked at a rice mill, so she suggested to the wealthy man to transfer the unhulled rice there to be milled first. Thanks to that, the milling problem was solved. Seeing Siwon and Gon being so close, and with Siwon solving the problem this time, Bua felt a bit uncomfortable and went to the riverbank to breathe some air. Siwon followed her and mocked Bua with a few words, saying she knew the truth that Bua and Gon didn't marry for love but were just forced, so why stay together? She said that she was the one who understood Gon best, not Bua. Just after she said that, Gon walked up and grabbed Bua's hand, telling Siwon that while it was true Siwon understood him better, the only person he loved was Bua. After hearing that, Siwon cried a river by the bank and left heartbroken. Cha Lit went to find Siwon and persuaded her to stop staying here to help the wealthy man's family, and instead join his team to get rich together. He said if she returned with some achievements, her dad definitely wouldn't scold her for running away from home. Having just been dumped, Siwon agreed immediately. Over at Bua's place, she asked Gon why he spoke like that to Siwon, wondering if he was afraid of her being angry. Gon gave a blunt answer, saying he had to be a bit cold so Siwon would move on. Gon knew Siwon had liked him for a long time but he didn't want to lose their friendship, so he didn't know how to reject her. Bua secretly kissed Gon on the cheek and then left happily. Gon was stunned for 5 seconds before he could react. Ku's place. Thep went to the shop to find her again. Ku took the profits from the shop and gave them to Thep. And she also planned to return his investment capital so they would have nothing more to do with each other. After saying that, Ku chased Thep away. That night, Gon hired someone to find Tup Tim's place because he heard Ku say that when she was attacked, she saw a woman leaving. Gon used all his brain cells to think and concluded that the woman was Tup Tim, since in this whole village, only Tup Tim hated Ku. So Gon guessed that Tup Tim and Dang were together. Just as Gon thought, Dang really had gone to the boarding house to find Tup Tim. What Gon and Ruong needed to do was wait for Dang to come out and then catch him, and that would be it. The two young men waited for a long time before they saw Dang come out, and they immediately tailed him to give him a beating. Dang escaped Gon's grip and ran into Ruong. He thought he was caught, but then Tup Tim appeared and whacked Ruong on the head, knocking him out. Gon also got hit with a stick. Tup Tim helped Dang get away first, taking the chance to squeeze out some more money before they went their separate ways, planning to meet later when it was safe. Gon and Ruong helped each other home, where Bua had been waiting for Gon for quite a while. Gon went to the riverbank to wash up first so he'd smell good. Thinking about that kiss on the cheek from Bua earlier, the guy planned to return the favor. However, as he got to the door, he felt nervous and had to do some push-ups to warm up first. Unfortunately, Molly showed up to call Gon to watch the rice mill because the workers were sick, spreading the flu around and all calling out, so his plan to return that kiss went up in smoke. Gon went to the rice mill to catch some Z's. Uncle Kem heard the story from Bua, so he brought over some ginger and lemongrass to keep the mosquitoes away from Gon before heading home. The next morning, as soon as Gon woke up, Ruong rushed over to report that Siyun's friend's rice mill was demanding to send the rice back. Siyun told the rich man she could only help with a portion, and they'd have to figure out the rest. She suggested that if they could, why not send it to Cha Lit's mill for help? Siyun had already talked to Cha Lit. He was ready to help, they just needed to share some of the profit. Gon gently declined. He thought they should use rice pestles to pound the rice, which would take a bit longer but would mean not depending on outsiders. The rich man heard that and agreed with Gon, saying that if they had to share the profit, it was better to share it with the villagers. So the rich man mobilized a team to pound rice all day, and everyone was happy to pitch in. Siyun saw that and went back to Cha Lit in a rage. With the rice being pounded this fast, the rich man's mill was bound to deliver on time. It turned out that after being dumped, Siyun wanted to teach Gon a lesson. Soy stood outside eavesdropping on their conversation, planning to threaten Siyun that she'd tell Gon. But Siyun unexpectedly challenged her, saying there was no way Gon would believe her. Ku's place. Thep still came by the shop these days to find her but she gave him the cold shoulder. Ku told Thep to stop following her because no matter what, she couldn't forgive him. That noon, Gon sat eating lunch while witnessing Pin and Ruong's PDA, and was extremely uncomfortable. Ruong told Gon to go home and act needy with his wife so he wouldn't be so annoyed. Gon was so mad he went straight home, telling himself he had to make a move tonight. Bua was at home taking a bath, taking the chance to spray some perfume so she'd smell nice. Just as she was about to push the door open to enter the room, Molly begged her to come over and tell her a bedtime story. Gon lay on his side, fresh from the shower, waiting forever without seeing Bua come back. He waited and waited until he finally fell asleep. Bua came back and saw that, secretly kissed Gon on the cheek, and then spread a mat on the floor to lie down. The next day, Cha Lit's rice mill had its grand opening with a festive lion dance. People flocked there like it was a festival because of the 50% discount. Uncle Kem was there too, constantly praising Cha Lit for taking a loss to please the villagers, saying he was much kinder than the rich man. Gon felt like something was off. Selling stuff this cheap didn't seem very trustworthy. Bua felt the same way. They both thought it might be expired or filled with something. When he saw Ruong buy a whole cart of fertilizer from Cha Lit, Gon gave him a scolding. Ruong sliced a bag of fertilizer open to show Gon, and everything inside looked completely normal. On top of that, Cha Lit even let Ruong buy it on credit. Just like Gon predicted, Cha Lit and Siyun had a motive for selling at low prices and allowing credit. They wanted as many villagers as possible to be in debt, so that when the people couldn't afford to pay it back, they would have to sell their land to them for dirt cheap. At that point, their plan would be a total success. That night, Tup Tim went to the casino that Dang was running for the village chief to ask for money. Dang tempted Tup Tim to join in, and feeling greedy, Tup Tim boldly played a few rounds. Dang winked at his guys to let Tup Tim win the first 1 or 2 rounds. Tup Tim got some cash, won continuously making a fortune, and was grinning from ear to ear. At Uncle Kem's place, right after he mocked the rich man, he ran into Ruong and his parents coming back from shopping. Hearing Ruong brag about buying a motorcycle on credit at Cha Lit's shop, Uncle Kem suddenly felt worried. The district chief also thought Cha Lit's plan was too risky. Seeing Gon's side delivering on time and having money to pay the villagers, and then the villagers paying off their debts to Cha Lit. Cha Lit brought in more high-value items to sell so the villagers would owe even more. Cha Lit told him to stop worrying and just follow his plan. and he'd soon become a big landlord. The next day, the district chief went to the market to call on the people to leave Gon's cooperative, and the people believed him completely and rushed to Gon's place to demand their money back. Gon didn't know what to do, so he gave them back every single cent. As for Soy, she helped spread the word that Cha Lit's mill offered loans with lower interest than the rich man's, and the people, being greedy for a good deal, worshipped Cha Lit like a god, flocking to his place to borrow more and more money. Siyun gave Cha Lit a gentle reminder not to push it too far. If the people found out they were being scammed, they would use street justice on him immediately. Cha Lit wasn't afraid. As long as Uncle Kem was on his side, every problem with the people would be solved, since the people believed Uncle Kem implicitly. What goes around comes around. That afternoon, Gon caught Ruang jumping off a bridge. Luckily, Gon pulled Ruang ashore in time. After asking a lot, Ruang finally told him everything started with that guy Cha Lit. Ruang went there to buy cheap stuff like everyone else, and even though he wanted to pay, Cha Lit offered credit, so he just went for it. Even the motorcycle he bought was on credit just to show off. Cha Lit was even ready to buy rice right from the fields, but the money paid back was very little. He told Ruang it was to deduct from his shopping debt and the motorcycle installments. Having no cash, Ruang went back to Cha Lit to sign a loan paper. At the end of the month, Cha Lit came to collect, and the interest was sky high. It turned out the loan paper already had 10% daily interest written on it. When signing, Ruang didn't read it, so he didn't know. Now Ruang didn't have enough money to pay the debt, so he planned to check out early. The land his father left him was also taken by Cha Lit because Ruang used it as collateral when buying the motorcycle. Gon immediately went to find Cha Lit for a showdown, and Uncle Kem couldn't hold back either and punched Cha Lit once. Cha Lit gave a gentle reminder that Uncle Kem was the one who helped him and made the villagers trust him. So if he was wrong by 1, Uncle Kem was wrong by 10. Cha Lit called his guys out to beat up the father and son until they were a total mess. After this, Uncle Kem finally realized he was wrong, so he went to find the rich man and the village chief to find a way to help the people. That night, Bua applied medicine for Gon and then told him to wait for her to shower, saying she'd help him relax when she got back. Gon was both happy and nervous, so he did a few rounds of push-ups to stay strong and then jumped on the bed to wait, determined not to fall asleep. A while later Bua came back, and Gon thought he was in for a treat. It turned out Bua's idea of relaxing was going out to play board games with Molly and Pin. He didn't see any relaxation. All he got was a major headache. The group played board games all night and then just fell asleep outside. When he woke up in the morning, Gon saw Bua resting her head on him, and Molly was hugging his leg. While he was having a headache not knowing what to do, Siyun came to find him. She set a condition: as long as Gon divorced Bua and stayed with her, she would help him fight back against Cha Lit. Molly followed Gon and hid in a corner, so she heard everything Siyun said. The little girl rushed back to let Bua know. While waiting for Gon to return, Bua asked him what he wanted to do now. Additionally, Bua had just discovered that Gon graduated from university, but kept it a secret from her. The other day, Bua went to see Ku and accidentally saw some photos from Gon's school days hidden in a cabinet, along with his degree. Bua wanted to wait for Gon to tell her himself, but Gon didn't say anything. Gon explained that he hid it because he didn't want everyone comparing him to Thep, who was more educated and was praised to the high heavens by everyone in the village. No matter how he explained it, Bua still felt hurt. Feeling like they couldn't trust each other, Gon ran out of options, so he coldly went along with Bua's wish. From then on, they stopped talking to each other and he packed his bags to move back home with his dad. The whole family saw Bua sitting and crying by the river, but no one dared to go over and comfort her. Meanwhile, at Gon's place, Uncle Kem and Ku were also planning to check on how Gon was doing. Suddenly, Gon opened the door and came out, startling them both. He told his dad and Ku to go find the wealthy man and the village chief to find a way to help the villagers deal with Cha Lit. Gon had the idea to gather the people who were scammed, then spread the news about Cha Lit's fraud and sue him. Everyone split up to encourage the villagers to sign their names, gathering as many people as possible. Ruang even went to the bar to tell his tragic and dramatic story to expose Cha Lit's crimes, gently reminding them not to borrow money from Cha Lit's family, or they would end up losing their land and money just like him. After hearing this, many people started speaking up, saying they were also tricked out of their land, and gradually more and more people agreed to sign. The village's problem had a solution now, but the family's problem still didn't, and he was still quite heartbroken. On Bua's side, her mind had been in the clouds for the past few days. When she cooked porridge, she was so distracted that she made it as salty as the ocean. Over on Gon's side, seeing the couple fighting, Siwon jumped in to comfort Gon, trying to take advantage of the situation, but she was still rejected by him. Uncle Tong saw the two were acting like children, so he told Bua to go find Gon and talk to him properly, and to bring food for her father and Gon while she was at it. Bua struggled with her thoughts for a long time before she finally agreed to bring food to the rice mill. But who would have guessed she would run into Gon and Siwon together? So, she completely gave up on the idea of talking things out clearly. After gathering enough signatures, the villagers marched together to the front of Cha Lit's shop to protest. Cha Lit wasn't afraid because he had the district chief's backing. Furthermore, he had several loan papers that everyone had voluntarily signed, so he was even more arrogant. The district chief saw this and was a bit worried, but Cha Lit still wasn't scared. He was certain that if they went to court, he would still have the winning hand. The district chief stopped by the casino to collect money, right when Tup Tim rushed in looking for Dang. He looked clearly annoyed, gave Dang a quick warning, and then left. Tup Tim didn't really care because she was upset about losing all her money. Being broke and desperate, Tup Tim tried to convince Dang to stop running the place for the old district chief and start his own casino instead. After all, everyone in the casino was Dang's guy, so taking it over would be a piece of cake. All they had to do was snitch on the old district chief and let the village chief handle it. They'd get rid of two rivals at once and take the casino for themselves. After a few days, Gon finished calculating the amount of interest that Cha Lit had scammed out of the villagers. Taking the chance when he saw Bua, Uncle Kem told her she should go find Gon if she was free, but she absolutely refused, saying if Gon wanted to see her, he would have come over himself. Bua asked Uncle Kem why he hid the fact that Gon graduated from college. The rich man and the village chief were shocked when they heard it and blamed Uncle Kem for not saying anything, which made them look down on Gon for so long. Uncle Kem explained that Gon wanted to test out his agricultural model first and wait for success before speaking up, fearing the villagers would mock him for being educated but unable to apply it in real life. After hearing that, Bua wasn't any less angry at Gon at all. At home, Ku was also trying her best to convince Gon to make up with Bua, but he wouldn't listen. While they were talking, Dang secretly threw a rock into the house. Gon ran down to check and found a scrap of paper in the garden. He opened it and saw a map to the district chief's casino, with a very clear note exposing the district chief as the person behind the place. Gon took the paper to the village chief and the rich man. Gon and Thep planned to barge into the casino, but the village chief felt they needed a specific plan to prove it belonged to the district chief. Otherwise the old guy would just flat out deny everything. That night, the village chief led his men to conduct a surprise inspection of the casino. Thep and Gon went along too. While chasing a gambler, Thep was badly beaten and injured by Dang. If Gon hadn't chased after him, it would have been game over for Thep. The village chief and Gon took Thep to the hospital, and Ku rushed there to visit him as soon as she heard the news. The village chief asked Ku to look after Thep for him so he could go home and report to his wife, who was crying her eyes out. Gon led Ku to Thep's hospital room and then gave the young couple some space. Ku sat by Thep's bedside all night and didn't leave until morning. She had already gone home by the time Thep woke up. On the district chief's side, the police came right to his house to take him to the station for the casino investigation. Back at the hospital, Bua came to visit Thep and ran into Gon's family in the lobby. She just ignored Gon and didn't even bother saying hello. Bua walked into the hospital room, making Thep think she was Ku. Bua knew perfectly well how much Thep was waiting to see Ku. The young man admitted to Bua that he had hit on Ku before to get revenge on Gon, but somehow he fell in love with Ku without even realizing it. Bua also spoke honestly and said she hadn't liked Thep for a long time. Bua felt bad for him, so she lent Thep a hand. She rushed outside to find Ku and told her that Thep was in bad shape. Ku immediately ran into the room, and Thep's job was to take the chance to hold her tight and sweet-talk her. Things were about to be okay when Thep's wound started bleeding again, so Ku rushed out to find a doctor. After making up with Thep, Ku happily went home to pack her stuff to take care of him at the hospital. The plan to withdraw her business capital was also cancelled. Ku told Gon not to hold a grudge against Thep anymore, saying Bua was the one who helped them reconcile, so he should just move on. Bua didn't have any feelings for Thep left. Even after all that, Gon was still hesitant to go find Bua, constantly thinking about what to do next and whether he should go comfort her. After struggling with his thoughts for a while, Gon finally dragged himself over to Bua's house to find her. As bad luck would have it, Bua also went to the garden to find Gon, but he wasn't there. She only ran into Sun. She intentionally provoked Bua with a few words, so that Bua wouldn't have a chance to get back with Gon. Bua heard that and was so mad she just went straight home. Over at Dang and Tup Tim's place, after getting rid of the district chief, they opened their own casino. They were a little scared, but as long as they were making bank, they didn't care. The next day, Soy visited her dad in jail, and as soon as she walked out, she ran into Gon, who begged her to be a witness to help the villagers. Soy flat out refused and even set a condition for Gon. If he wanted her help, he had to get her dad out of jail. While he was having a headache over that, more trouble came. Cha Lit filed a lawsuit against the villagers, making everyone worry they would lose all their land for good. Gon went to Sion to see if he could dig up any info on Cha Lit. She told him Cha Lit had a ledger of goods, and if they got it, they'd have proof that Cha Lit planned to scam the people from the jump. Sion knew Cha Lit hid it in his bedroom, and she was even ready to go get it for Gon no matter how dangerous it was. Gon came up with an idea to cause a scene so Sion would have a chance to sneak into his room. No sooner said than done. Gon and the villagers went to Chalit's place and made a huge ruckus, and as soon as Chalit stepped out, the villagers threw buffalo dung all over him. Unfortunately, his henchmen pulled out their guns to threaten them, making everyone run away in a panic. Chalit went inside to wash up and get clean, and Seon took that opportunity to sneak into the room, steal the keys and open Chalit's cabinet. Surprisingly, the ledger was actually in there. But just as she got the book and was leaving, Seon was caught red-handed by Chalit and Soy. Chalit got so angry he smacked Seon, making her hit her head on the bed and pass out cold. Soy quickly got some bandages to give Seon first aid and told Chalit to take Seon to the hospital, but he wouldn't agree. Then Chalit kicked Soy out. As soon as Soy went downstairs, she saw Gon sneaking into the shop. Realizing Seon was in danger, Gon rushed upstairs and saved Seon before she could be harmed by Chalit. Gon carried Seon out of there, and Bua happened to pass by and helped by knocking things over to block Chalit's henchmen. Everyone got away safely, but the whole way back, Gon kept acting so caring towards Seon that it hurt Bua quite a bit. Bua asked Gon when he started working with Seon and why he didn't tell her. She even told Gon to go take care of Seon and stay by her side while she made some porridge. After she finished cooking, Bua just went home, not wanting to stay and be a third wheel. A few days later, the district chief was released. He found Soy huddling in fear in her room. It turned out that because Soy told Gon that Seon was in danger, she had been beaten by Chalit and was now severely traumatized. The district chief went to find Chalit for a showdown, but he couldn't do anything to him. Thanks to Chalit's dad bailing him out, the district chief was stuck and didn't dare say a word. Chalit pushed the lawsuit to seize the villagers' land, and the summons were sent out to everyone one by one. Thanks to the wealthy man's firm promise to help until the very end, the people finally breathed a sigh of relief. Uncle Kem kept blaming himself, thinking it was his fault the villagers got scammed. He apologized to the wealthy man for all the fighting they did over the years, and the wealthy man didn't hold a grudge about any of it. Because of that, the trio made up and even went out for drinks to reconnect. Gon was the most exhausted because he had to haul the two drunk dads home. After dropping off the wealthy man with Bua, Gon just stood there staring at her for a long time. Uncle Kem told Gon to go upstairs and make up with Bua, but he refused and insisted on going home. A few days later, the villagers escaped the lawsuit with the wealthy man's help. Tup Tim showed up out of nowhere to mock them, telling them not to celebrate too early because they would eventually lose all their land to Chalit anyway. Tup Tim was dripping in gold and her hair was all curled up, leaving everyone stunned. Just then, the village chief's wife was there too, and she took a jab at Tup Tim, making her so embarrassed and bitter that she stormed off. When Thep heard his mom mention that Tup Tim was covered in gold, he got a bit suspicious about where she got all that money. He rushed over to tell Gon the news. Suddenly, Gon remembered the case of the district chief's casino and figured out that Dang was the one who snitched on the district chief just to take the casino for himself. That was why Tup Tim was wearing so much gold. At Soy's place, she had the bold idea to steal the ledger herself and expose Chalit to get revenge. That night, Soy intentionally went to find him and used her charms to get into his bed. By the time Chalit woke up, the ledger had completely disappeared. Chalit was bitter as hell and mobilized his guys to find Soy and her dad. Luckily, the village chief had planned ahead and sent people to bring Soy and her dad to his house safely to protect them so they could be witnesses later. At Seon's place, her father was worried about what Chalit might do to his daughter, so he forced Seon to return to the city immediately. Seon stopped by to say goodbye to the wealthy man's family. Seon told Bua to make up with Gon since she was no longer Bua's rival, and nothing was standing in their way anymore. Seon knocked some sense into Bua, making her realize she should be the one to swallow her pride and comfort Gon first for things to work out. Gon saw Seon off to her ride, and since she was playing matchmaker, she gave Gon some advice about his relationship with Bua. After being rejected by Gon several times, although she was sad, Seon accepted giving up her feelings for him. On the way home, Gon met Bua in the middle of the field. Thanks to Seon pulling the strings, these two finally opened up and talked to each other. Most importantly, they made up with a smoking hot kiss and walked home hand in hand. Uncle Tong, Pin, and Molly were watching from the door and saw them grinning and being super lovey-dovey, so they ran out to gossip. Uncle Tong had even packed Bua's things for her to move into Gon's house if Gon refused to move back here. Bua was so embarrassed she had to hide in her room to cool down. Chalit found out that Soy and her dad were helped by Gon and were staying at the village chief's house, and he was so angry his face was turning red and blue. He immediately went to find Dang to plot his revenge. Another beautiful day rolled around, and Uncle Tong was dead set on kicking Bua out to Gon's house so the couple could keep patching things up. Even the rich man couldn't stop him if he tried. While passing by the field, Bua ran into Thep's mother being jumped by a bunch of thugs, so she immediately rushed in to lend her a hand. Thing was, this group clung like leeches and wouldn't let go, but luckily Gon arrived just in time. He lunged forward to fight them off and was just about to win when some guy cheap shot him from behind. Both of them were taken by the gang to Cha Lit's abandoned warehouse. It turned out this crew worked for Cha Lit and Duong. They only planned to get revenge on Gon. But Tup Tim wanted to get back at Thep's mom too, just to vent her anger. Thep's mom managed to escape, but since Bua happened to be there, they snatched her up instead. Cha Lit was a bit ticked off because Dang messed up the plan. He told his minions to beat Gon to a pulp quickly and then bail before the village. Chief sent people over. Cha Lit splashed water to wake Gon up and then asked him where he stashed the ledger. Gon wouldn't talk, so he got beaten up real bad. Bua spotted a shard near the woodpile and secretly reached for it to cut her ropes. She was just about to cut through the rope when Cha Lit suddenly pulled her up to threaten Gon. Taking that chance, she shoved Cha Lit hard and grabbed Tup Tim as a hostage, forcing them to untie Gon first. Gon led Bua and Tup Tim downstairs, but as bad luck would have it, they ran into one of Cha Lit's henchmen. Gon spun around and threw hands and feet at him. Cha Lit immediately pulled the trigger toward Tup Tim, but Dang wouldn't back down and shot Cha Lit dead before running down to save Tup Tim. Gon and Bua took the opportunity to escape, with Dang hot on their heels. Outside, the wealthy man's and the village chief's men had already arrived. They thought that in this life Bua and Gon would turn into dry skeletons before they ever got to hook up, but luckily at the last second, the two of them turned the tables and dealt with Dang in a heartbeat. Everyone else was rounded up by the police. Everything was finally settled, and Thep and Ku were free to date without anyone standing in their way. Uncle Kem gently asked Gon when he'd finally drag himself back to his wife's house, asking what he was doing just loitering here. Just as Gon reached the front of the house with his stuff, he ran into Bua, who was also carrying her bags, getting ready to go look for him. By evening, Bua told Gon to go get showered and smell nice so he could get his gift. Gon finished his shower and came back thinking he'd get some newlywed action, but who would have guessed he'd just be playing board games with the ladies again. Even though he was a bit frustrated, he couldn't say a word because it was his wife's orders. After a bit of time passed, Gon passed the civil service exam in the village, and both Uncle Kem and the wealthy man were puffing their chests out with pride. Thep has now become the village chief, and the district chief is behaving himself in rehab. Cha Lit, of course, was completely finished with no way out, and the villagers were able to protect their land, cause shop got busier and busier, and her puppy love with Thep was off the charts. They were stuck together like glue. As for Gon and Bua, it goes without saying that they enjoyed their newlywed life every single day. The movie ends right here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss other cool episodes. But for now, see you later and bye-bye.